2 days ago, the WTA's official player list for the 2026 Porsche Grand Prix quietly updated, and a name appeared in the main draw that nobody expected to see there without playing qualifiers first. Alexandra Eala, the 20-year-old left-hander from Quezon City, Philippines, slid into the Stuttgart field like someone walking through a door that only exists for a few seconds. Qinwen Zheng pulled out with an injury. And just like that, the entire texture of Eala's clay court season changed before she even packed her bags for Germany. Now, on the surface, this looks like simple arithmetic. A ranked player withdraws, the next name on the entry list moves up. It happens at every tournament. But context turns arithmetic into something else entirely, because what's happening around Alex Eala right now is anything but routine. And the timing of this Stuttgart entry exposes a series of fascinating tactical and competitive questions that deserve a much closer look. Let's rewind a few weeks to understand the full picture. After the Sunshine Double in Indian Wells and Miami, Eala's ranking had touched a career high of world number 29 on March 16th. That number mattered enormously. For a player from the Philippines, a country where tennis courts are outnumbered by basketball courts roughly 1,000 to 1, cracking the top 30 of the WTA rankings is something that had never been done before. Not close. Not almost. Never. And she did it by beating people who are supposed to beat her. At Indian Wells, she took out Coco Gauff, the world number 4, in a match where Gauff was forced to retire after Eala had raced to a 6-2, 2-0 lead. Before that, in Dubai, she dispatched Jasmine Paolini 6-1, 7-6 in the second round of a WTA 1000 event. These are not fluke results scattered across different seasons. This is a concentrated period of elevated performance against the very best players on tour, and it started with that extraordinary week in Miami a year ago when a wildcard ranked 140th beat Jelena Ostapenko, Madison Keys, and Iga Swiatek back-to-back, all in straight sets, before finally losing a 3-set semifinal to Jessica Pegula. So the ranking surge was real. The problem is what happened next. Miami 2026 ended with a fourth-round loss to Karolina Muchova, a clinical 6-0, 6-2 defeat that exposed something important about where Eala's game still has gaps. Then the Linz Open this week brought a first-round win over Julia Grabher, a tidy 6-4, 6-3 result that looked comfortable in the final score but required Eala to fend off repeated breakpoint pressure from the Austrian home favorite. The second round, though, is the one that tells the real story. Eala led Jelena Ostapenko 6-4, 5-1. She was 2 games from the quarterfinals. And then Ostapenko, the 2017 French Open champion, did what Ostapenko does when her back touches the wall. She unleashed. 6 straight games. Match over 4-6, 7-5. Eala's ranking has now slipped from 29 to 46, and she arrives in Stuttgart carrying both the confidence of her best-ever season and the sting of knowing she let a significant win slip through her fingers just days ago. This is the backdrop against which the Stuttgart main draw entry needs to be understood. It is not simply an administrative upgrade. It changes the architecture of her week. Originally, Eala was slotted into qualifying. That would have meant 2 extra matches on indoor clay before the main draw even started, matches that carry physical cost and mental expenditure but offer comparatively little in ranking points. By moving directly into the main draw, she sidesteps that grind entirely. She conserves energy. She avoids the risk of an early qualifying round exit that would have sent her home with nothing. And she arrives in the main draw with the same status as players who were seeded or accepted directly, meaning she gets a full shot at the 500 ranking points on offer. For someone trying to claw back from 46 toward the top 30, this matters immensely. But here is where the analysis gets genuinely interesting, because Stuttgart is not just any tournament. It is an indoor clay event, and indoor clay is one of the rarest and most unusual surfaces in professional tennis. The Porsche Arena uses a specially engineered court surface that replicates the characteristics of Roland Garros clay but maintains a constant moisture level through embedded technology, meaning the ball bounces consistently. The court never needs watering mid-match, and there is no wind, no sun, no outdoor variables at all. For someone like Eala, who trained at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Mallorca, who grew up hitting on clay under the Spanish sun, the indoor component introduces a subtle twist. The ball comes through faster in the still air. The court plays slightly quicker than outdoor clay. The lighting is artificial. The acoustics of the arena amplify crowd noise in a way outdoor venues do not. And this is where her recent preparation becomes relevant. After Miami, Eala returned to the Rafa Nadal Academy specifically to train on indoor clay. She worked on court feel, on movement patterns, on the subtle adjustments a player needs to make when the ball skids slightly lower and comes through slightly faster than it does outside. And she did this under the eye of Toni Nadal. That detail deserves emphasis. Toni Nadal, the man who coached Rafael Nadal to 14 French Open titles, who understands clay court tennis at a molecular level, has been actively involved in Eala's coaching setup since her breakthrough at the 2025 Miami Open. Eala herself described the experience recently, saying, "She almost lost her mind when she realized Toni Nadal was actually coaching her. We're so blessed to have him," she told journalist Diane Castillo. "He really has that knowledge. He's really able to help my team. This is not a casual arrangement." Toni Nadal was in her coaching box during the Miami semifinal run. He has been part of strategic planning for her clay court transition. And the fact that Eala chose to return to the academy specifically to prepare for indoor clay suggests a level of tactical intentionality that goes beyond simply showing up and hoping for the best. Now, let's talk about the field she is walking into. Stuttgart's 2026 entry list reads like a who's who of women's tennis. Aryna Sabalenka, Elena Rybakina, Iga Swiatek, Coco Gauff, Jasmine Paolini, Mira Andreeva, Karolina Muchova, Barbara Krejcikova, Alina Svitolina. 10 of the top 14 players in the world will be in the draw. The defending champion is Jelena Ostapenko, the same player who just beat Eala in Linz by storming back from 4-6, 1-5 down. This is not a comfortable field. This is the deep end of the pool with weights strapped to your ankles. But here is the thing about Eala that separates her from most players in her ranking range. She does not shrink against top opposition. Her career record against top 10 players is 4 wins and 3 losses. That is a winning record against the 10 best players on the planet. How many players ranked in the 40s can say that? Her wins include Swiatek, Keys, Paolini, and Gauff. These are not lucky draws or walkovers. These are legitimate, competitive victories against players who have won Grand Slams, Olympic gold medals, and year-end championships. And the key to understanding why she performs this way lies in her playing style. Eala is a left-handed aggressive baseliner. Her forehand is her primary weapon, and from the left side, that forehand naturally curves into the backhand of right-handed opponents, creating an angle that most players on tour rarely face. Her topspin generates significant RPM, and on clay, that spin bites into the surface and kicks higher than it does on hard courts, pushing opponents further behind the baseline. Her two-handed backhand is reliable and increasingly offensive, and her movement has improved noticeably in 2026, something she herself credited to the work done in Mallorca. Where she remains vulnerable is on serve. Her first serve percentage and pace are both below the tour average for players in the top 50, and against elite returners like Sabalenka or Rybakina, that weakness can be exploited aggressively. The Muchova match in Miami exposed this clearly, as the Czech player read Eala's serve patterns early and dictated play from the return position throughout. On clay, though, the serve becomes slightly less decisive. Rallies are longer. Points are more frequently won from the baseline than from the serve +1 pattern that dominates hard court tennis. And this is where Eala's strengths come into sharper focus. Her ability to absorb pace, redirect the ball, and construct points patiently is ideally suited to clay. The surface rewards exactly the kind of grinding, tactical baseline play that Toni Nadal has spent 40 years perfecting. If there is a surface where Eala's game could take a genuine leap forward, clay is the logical candidate. The statistics, however, tell a more complicated story. Eala's career clay record at WTA level coming into 2026 was modest. In 2025, she played 4 clay tournaments and went 2 wins, 4 losses. In 2024, she played 6 clay events and won 3 of 9 matches. These are not dominant numbers. But they also reflect a player who was ranked well outside the top 100 during most of those clay seasons, who was playing qualifying rounds and early round matches against opponents who had spent their entire careers on European dirt. The version of Eala who steps onto Stuttgart's indoor clay in April 2026 is a fundamentally different player than the one who lost to Tatiana Maria 1-6, 1-6 at the 2023 Madrid Open. She is 40 ranking spots higher. She has beaten multiple Grand Slam champions. She has worked with one of the greatest clay court coaching minds in history. The question is whether all of that translates to a surface she has historically found uncomfortable. And then there is the crowd factor, which at this point in Eala's career has become a genuine competitive variable. Filipino fans follow Eala to tournaments the way Colombian fans once followed Shakira on world tours. At Indian Wells, the stands were packed with Philippine flags. At the Australian Open in January, tournament officials noted unprecedented Filipino attendance. At Dubai and Miami, sections of the crowd became de facto Philippine cheering sections, complete with organized chants and custom banners. ESPN ran a feature calling her the most popular player in tennis right now. The Tennis Channel compared the phenomenon to what happens when a nation collectively decides that one athlete represents something beyond sport. In Stuttgart, the question becomes whether that traveling support follows her to an indoor arena in southwestern Germany. The Porsche Arena holds around 4,500 fans for tennis. It is an intimate venue. Sound carries. Energy transfers. If even a few hundred Filipino fans make the trip, the atmosphere could become genuinely different from what the rest of the draw is accustomed to. And Eala feeds off crowd energy in a way that is visible and measurable. Her win percentage in matches where she has significant crowd support is noticeably higher than in matches played in quieter settings. Whether that is correlation or causation is debatable, but the pattern is there. So where does all of this leave us heading into next week? Eala enters Stuttgart ranked 46, unseeded. With a main draw spot, she was not originally guaranteed. She is coming off a loss where she held a commanding lead and could not close it out, which means the mental challenge of the Ostapenko collapse in Linz will be sitting somewhere in the back of her mind. She faces a draw loaded with the best players in the world, on a surface where her record is mixed, but her potential is high. She has Toni Nadal's tactical framework supporting her preparation. She has the natural advantages of a left-handed game that produces awkward angles on clay. And she has a fan base that treats every match like a national event. The tactical matchup to watch, if the draw cooperates, would be Eala against Swiatek. They have met before, that stunning quarterfinal in Miami 2025, where the then-teenager dismantled the former world number 1-6-2, 7-5. On outdoor hard courts. On indoor clay, Swiatek is a completely different proposition. Her topspin forehand generates some of the highest RPM numbers on tour, and on clay, that spin becomes almost impossible to neutralize. Swiatek has won 4 French Open titles. She is the defining clay court player of her generation. And yet Eala's left-handed forehand hits into Swiatek's backhand, which, while excellent, is not the shot that defines her. There is a geometric argument that Eala's game poses problems for Swiatek that most right-handed baseliners do not. Whether that argument survives the reality of Swiatek on her best surface remains to be seen. What is undeniable is that Eala's presence in the Stuttgart main draw represents something that extends beyond rankings and match results. 2 years ago, she was losing first-round qualifiers at WTA 250 events and grinding through the ITF circuit in small Spanish towns. Now she is in the main draw of one of the premier clay events on the calendar, rubbing shoulders with the top 4 players in the world, with a legitimate chance to make noise if she plays to her potential. The trajectory is not linear and it is not smooth. It includes the Muchova demolition. It includes the Ostapenko collapse. It includes early Grand Slam exits at every major she has entered. But it also includes victories over Swiatek and Gauff and Paolini and Keys, a career-high ranking of 29, and a coaching partnership with the Nadal family that gives her access to clay court wisdom that money cannot buy. Stuttgart starts April 13th. The draw has not yet been made. But wherever Eala lands in that bracket, She will walk onto the indoor clay of the Porsche Arena as a player who belongs in the conversation, not because of luck or withdrawal or circumstance, but because the ranking she holds is the product of results she earned against players better than her. What she does with that opportunity will tell us a great deal about whether 2026 becomes the year Eala stops being a breakthrough story and starts being simply a fixture at the top of women's tennis. The clay will decide. It always does.